The following is an exclusive presentation of Jessup Broadcasting, the sports leader in Southeast Georgia.
World famous. The world famous Butch and Bob Show.
Good morning. You're listening to the Big Dog, WIFO FM in Jessup, 105.5 on your FM dial, Big Dog Country Radio. Butch Everett here with you along with Bob Morgan on this Wednesday morning, 4th day of March. It is now time for the world-famous Butch and Bob Show, and it's brought to you by Nips Car Wash, located on Highway 301 South here in Jessup, and by Murphy Builder Supply, located on Northeast Broad Street in downtown Jessup. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning.
All right. Well, we've got our guest on the phone this morning. Go ahead with the interview, Bob.
Again, it's Wednesdays with Bill Werkheiser. Bill, appreciate you being here. Tell us what's taking place in Atlanta. Bill, you there?
Hey, sorry, I was swapping on my car. I'm good.
Okay, well, tell us what's taking place in Atlanta.
Well, getting busier every day as it does. So, actually, we're exactly 1 week away from crossover, and I believe Senator Tillery talked a little bit about that. So that's always a big push to get everything that we can pass in the House so we can get it over to the Senate and vice versa. So everybody is jockeying and pleading to get their bill on the floor.
What are the most pressing bills on the floor?
Well, whatever bill belongs to you. Actually, same old things. Healthcare, insurance, education. So we did. The Senate had already passed the thing that we heard from a lot of listeners on the dual enrollment, which was the Move On One Ready. So both chambers have passed that, and I think we made some good changes to that to alleviate a lot of the concerns. So the reality is that the sky's not falling, and it will affect really probably less than 2% of the students who just happen to have a ton of hours. So thought we did a good job on that. So I'm on appropriations, and we started meeting yesterday because the House has already passed out the amended budget. Now it's in the Senate. So we started meeting yesterday on the budget, and we'll meet almost every day on that, trying to get the big budget, or the budget that will start in July.
Well, when will they, like I said, we keep hearing about a budget and a big budget. What's the difference?
Okay, so we refer to the amended budget as the small budget, even though they're the same size, only because we're on the amended budget, we're only dealing with the difference in what we thought would come in and what actually came in. And that's usually, this year is about $300 million. Last year it was $700 million. So we always operate off a very conservative, lower than expected revenue, just so we don't get caught. Because we're not the federal government. We only spend what comes in. We operate like you do in your house. And so we've done that part. And so now what we call the big budget is what the beginning of the next fiscal year, which is July 1st through June 30th, so 2021.
And just joining us, Bill Werkheiser on the phone, Wednesdays with Werkheiser. Every year seems to be interesting legislation proposed. Talked to Blake Tiller yesterday about it. The possibility of Georgia voters voted on keeping the time change, keeping the time the same throughout the entire year. Is that going to get any traction? Or are people really going to vote on that in November?
It absolutely is. And in fact, I don't know any. I mean, there may be somebody that I haven't seen any polls or any, and I've seen a lot of different ones. I haven't talked to anybody who likes flipping back and forth. So regardless of which one we do, standard or daylight, people don't like the idea of having to change. And there's all kind of studies that show how the effect on our bodies and everything else that it's not good. So I wish this is another area that I wish our federal government would step up and change it for everyone, because really that's what causes it to get a little messy on the state side, because as Blake said yesterday, basically we can only vote for, if we're going to stay on one, we've got to do standard. And, one of the problems with that would be, if our neighboring states don't, especially those that say you live in Columbus or even, near Savannah and go or along the eastern border going to South Carolina, because some people actually live in Columbus, but their job may be in Phoenix, Alabama. And so, but to answer the question, yes, I think everybody wants us to lock the clocks. And so we haven't seen that in the House yet. It just passed the Senate, but I expect it to pass overwhelmingly.
Well, Jonathan, for years it's called an evil standard time, but I'm like you. Don't you think it has to be something nationwide? I mean, just things like one state changes, it would be kind of weird.
It does. It creates a patchwork, and we see that in Indiana, where a long time ago they were one of the first states to lock the clock, but all the states around them don't. So, I mean, it makes it messy. But yeah, that just seems like a simple solution, and it's something that again, it was done for a good reason back when a huge percent of our population was farming, and it was not the large scale farmers and then the smaller percentage. So I think it's run its time, and we need to change it.
Another bill that interests Wayne County, Stephen Meeks talked about it Monday, the tip and fee for coal ash. He's pushing that. Where do you see that going?
Yeah, congratulations to Steve for moving that. So what he's got the exact same bill that was in the Senate last year. He's the author, and I'm the second signer. And I think it's going to get traction this year. In the past, it's been a fight. There's been groups fighting it. Those fights don't seem to be there. And the fact that now we've got a bill in the House and the Senate just increases its chances. So I think it looks good. So he's been working it really hard and talking to the right people, and I believe he's got leadership behind us. So I think we're going to be good.
That sounds good. Other thing, teachers here in the area, as we mentioned last week, School Superintendent Jay Brinson mentioned, the $2,000 pay raise has been proposed by the governor, but there's talk that they may amend that to $1,000 and $1,000 next year. What's the latest on that conversation?
That is what we're hearing too. I think it's gone full scale. The governor pushed for the entire $2,000 to match the $3,000 from last year. And then there was a lot of talk at the beginning of session that it was not going to get put in the budget at all. And now I think we're back to a good compromise that, and again, this is not set in stone or anything, but it looks like that's where we're headed, to do $1,000 this year and $1,000 next. And that will put us, the $1,000 will be about $160 million in the budget.
And where does the governor stand on that? Is he going to be upset that he's not getting a full $2,000 this year, or what's going to be his response?
Obviously, he would have liked to get the whole thing, but I think he'll, on the other hand, he'll be pleased that we were able to meet him halfway. There was just too many other priorities of folks that are making a lot less. Like our correctional officers making $35,000. Our caseworkers that work with foster kids in the foster system, they're making $37,000, and they've got a really important job. And so if we don't fix those low-paying jobs, basically the state is just paying to train people. We train them, and the day they walk in, they took that job because they could get it, and they're looking at the want ads, first day on the job. That's just something to hold them up. And then in law enforcement, we do that for either correctional officers or others. We're basically paying a lot of money to get, say, jailers post-certified, and then walk across the street to the sheriff's office, get an $8,000 pay raise, and so the state is basically funding to get county employees post-certified. So, just a lot of good competing interest, and I don't see us wasting money on programs. We are really judiciously looking at cuts that won't affect service.
And once again, on the phone with us is Bill Werkheiser, Wednesdays with Werkheiser. Another topic I talked with Blake and Stephen with this week is, when the session began, you hear all these bills being proposed, but they fall by the wayside. One was the big push to have the seatbelt law change where people in the back seat have to wear a seatbelt. Apparently, if you're of a certain age, you don't have to wear a seatbelt currently, which that was news to me. But anyway, when the session first began, there was that big... You see article after article about that, but that's kind of fallen by the wayside. I don't hear anything about it anymore. So where's that stand?
Well, and I think the reason we heard so much about it was because there was a Senate study committee, and then the AJC started doing polls, and it overwhelmingly, it was in the 90-something% that most Georgians wanted that. And when you asked me that at the beginning of the session, I said, yeah, that sounds like a done deal. That would have been a safe bet that we would have done that. I think what happens is, we get, that may be an important issue, but when you juxtapose that against, health care and education and public safety, it does get pushed to the back. But I still think you got to remember, a bill doesn't take a lot of. It's a very short, quote, simple bill. So that's something that will be easy to pass. Either on crossover or sine die night, where we're there from 9 in the morning till midnight in the chamber. So I haven't heard anything in the House about it, but it is a Senate bill, but I still think it's got a good chance.
Well, just keep us posted on that, because I'll be curious if it gets to crossover day. Like I said, the first few days of the session, that's all I read about, and the last several weeks I haven't seen anything about it at all, so I didn't know if it was still on the table or if they just totally forgot about it, so I'm just curious.
Yeah. I tell you about an interesting bill that shows the difficulty sometimes of in fact, many times in session, I'm reminded of that verse in Proverbs where it says, the first to plead his case seems right until another comes and examines him. So we've got a bill, and I actually heard from several Wayne County folks asking me to support it, and it's called the Right to Farm Bill. So the scenario is, you've been, that you're a farmer, and you either have chicken houses or cows, and someone, say, moves from New York City, and they move right next to you, and they file a lawsuit against you because they don't like the smell that's coming from your farm. And so you think, well, that's an obvious, they chose to move there, and the farm was there. And so we've got a bill that says that protects the farmer. It's called Right to Farm. And so you say, well, that's a no-brainer. Well, then you start getting more information and find out where this bill actually came from and the scenario. And the bill was passed in North Carolina, and it actually pitted farmers against farmers. It wasn't protecting the small farmer. So what happened in North Carolina is an outfit, a national meat supplier of pork, built a facility that had 15,000 hogs. So you can imagine the smell that came from that. And so it was actually the other farmers who said, they couldn't open their windows. They could hardly go outside. They had been living there 15, 20 years, had, swing sets and trampolines. Their kids couldn't even play outside. And so there was lawsuits quality of life and what it did for them. So, all of a sudden the bill has kind of stalled, and even Gary Black, who's the Commissioner of Agriculture, is not taking a stand on either side because he's, it's a tough decision. And, that's just one example. And again, I think of that verse a lot, that the first guy comes to you and it's obvious, oh my gosh, we got to help this guy. And then you start getting, more information. So that bill has seemed to stall. But there's a lot of cases like that it's not, there's very few issues that are black and white.
Understand that. Again, we appreciate you. Anything else we need to know about before we let you go?
No, I think that's the bigger thing.
Representative Werkheiser, Butch Hubbard here. We got a couple of texts that have come in during the time period that you've been talking. Somebody wants to know, I know on Georgia News Network this morning, one of their lead stories was the governor trying to reduce the testing in the schools from middle school and high school. Somebody wants to know what's going on with Common Core to eliminate the testing. I know that the governor's big behind that. What's your thoughts and opinions on how things going in the House on the cutting down the testing?
Okay, well, so Common Core and the amount of tests are a little bit related, but they are separate issues legislatively. So this, again, another bill that started in the Senate and has already passed, they've eliminated 5 of those tests. And so we have not, so I believe that bill will pass. Anytime you've got an issue that the House and the Senate and the governor have all three said it's a priority before we even started session. So yes, it's passed one of the 3 areas that it needs to pass, and that's the Senate. We should hear that pretty quick in the House. It's probably, since they just passed it in the Senate, what happens is they'll get assigned to the Education Committee in the House. So they've got to hear that bill. They've got to have a hearing. They've got to pass it out, and then they've got to get it out of rules. So that's why there's always a time delay between the House and the Senate voting on a bill. But yes, I can just about guarantee you that's going to happen.
Okay. And somebody has a solution for the time change. Why not just go to Atlantic time an hour ahead and just set it and forget it, which is basically daylight savings time for us?
Well, that's interesting. That's one solution. I don't. It's hard enough to make this first step, so I don't see us doing that. Actually, you could carry that thought process to the nth degree. I've got my pilot's license. I don't fly anymore, but we operated on Zulu time. You ever heard of that?
I've heard of it in movies and TV shows, but I'm in the military, but I don't know what it is.
So what that does, there is a standard, there is a time that starts at the original, the first timeline, I guess the opposite of the equator where the lines are running and go around the globe. So there is a time, and so if it's 8:30 in the morning here, it's 8:30 in the morning over in Switzerland or China or whatever. So that'll never happen. But anyway, that would take that thought process to the very end and just say, and you did that because planes, obviously, especially the bigger, faster planes, were flying across so many time zones. That's why they use Zulu time.
Well, I got a feeling if it went to the polls, people would pick the daylight savings time because they'd love to have that extra hour of sunshine in the afternoons when they get off work or school. When I was taking one of my grandsons to swimming lessons, or not lessons, but swimming practice yesterday, he was saying, I just can't wait until Sunday, Granddaddy, because we get an extra hour of sunshine in the afternoon to play when we get home from school. And so it'll be interesting to see what Georgians do with that if they decide to go to that. But, of course, you said, as you mentioned, there is a problem. If the states around us don't do that and change, back and forth, about 8 months of daylight savings time and 4 months of standard time, it could present a problem when you're dealing with the states around us.
Yeah. So, so that's one of those issues that the legislature can't fix by itself. We need the people of Georgia. So we're not actually voting to change it. we're technically voting to put it on the ballot because that would be a constitutional change, and then the citizens of Georgia would vote in November.
If you put it on the ballot, let's say if you put it on the ballot for to stay with daylight savings time or standard time, either one, and the voters of Georgia say they vote yes on the amendment, is that binding or is that just an opinion poll?
Yes, that is binding. Now, we do some non-binding, but no, if that passed, with that effect would go into effect July 1st.
Okay. Yeah, I know there's at least a couple of states. You mentioned one. I think Arizona. There's a couple of states out there that stay with that one same time all year long, and it does present problems for them, but they get by. They get by with it.
Yeah, and think about this: the states that have changed never came back and changed back, so that tells me it works.
Yeah. Well, I just know most people I talk to would rather have a daylight savings time all year long so they can have that extra hour of sunshine in the afternoons, so they can do things at home, have fun, and like that.
Yeah.
All right, Bob, anything else for Representative Werkheiser?
No, appreciate you being here. And if you make it to Taste of Wayne tomorrow, hopefully we'll see you there.
Oh.
Hey, actually, glad you brought that up. My wife and I are coming to Taste of Wayne. We always look forward to that. And actually, I've missed very few. The only ones I miss are when we're in session on Friday. But this week, we're not in session on Friday. So I already got my tickets and look forward to seeing folks. I hope everybody will come out and support it. It is one of the best events and that the chamber and everybody puts on, and they put a lot of good ones on, so that says a lot.
What other question for you, Representative Werkheiser? I've got a stepsister that lives in Seattle, and I just got a text message from her, and they're in panic mode out there in Seattle. They say it looks like a ghost town. The mayor of Seattle has declared a state of emergency. My step-sister's daughter, who's in high school, has got a high fever and all kinds of stuff, and the insurance company is saying, go to the health clinic and get checked out, and so it's in panic mode in Seattle right now. We don't have that here in Georgia, but what's the talk around the Capitol about the coronavirus?
Well, unfortunately, I need to correct you. As of yesterday, about 4 o'clock, it is in Georgia. We've got 2 cases in Fulton County. They live in the same household, and one of them had flown to Italy, or had just returned from Italy and gotten sick. And by the time he got tested, the other person in the house, so they are quarantined, and so it is officially a Georgia problem right now.
Yeah, what I mean is, what's the talk around there? I know that, in Washington State, it's, they've had people die out there. Here, we just got our first cases, so we're not in panic mode yet. We're cautious, but we're not in panic mode because I knew that we had a couple of cases. But what is the talk around the legislature up there? Is there any talk from a legislative standpoint or anything at all? Just what's the talk around the water cooler when y'all talk and we are talking about precautions the state may take for the coronavirus? You still there? Hello?
Hey, hold on.
Oh, he's got somebody. Are you somebody talking to you there, Bill?
No, hold on 1 second.
Okay, we'll hold on 1 second. WIFO 105.5 FM in Jessup, Big Dog Country Radio, world famous Butch and Bob Show. Representative Bill Werkheiser on the phone with us, live from Atlanta. Bill, you ready now?
Hey, sorry, I was avoiding the elevator so I wouldn't lose you, and the stairwell did the same thing. But now I'm out of breath. So after the 2 cases were reported, the governor appointed a task force, starting with Dr. Toomey, she is the head of the Department of Health Services. And so they've got a task force. I tell you what's funny up here. We joked about the Capitol is the epitome of, it would be the worst case for somebody to get sick because you shake hands with a couple hundred people every day. So you see a lot of fist bumping around here now.
That's what I would be doing if I was the Capitol right now. No shaking of hands. I know when I go to Taste of Wayne tomorrow night, it's going to be fist bumping, elbow bumping, pat on the back, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and people understand that, and it's so you're right. I don't think people are panicking yet, but we do need to be careful and do. Everybody just needs to do the good common sense stuff that we do during flu season and really need to do year-round, and that is wash your hands. I'm real careful about. I try not to use doorknobs or, handrails, but we just need to practice good hygiene.
Yeah, that's the thing is, make sure you wash your hands quite often during the course of the day, and especially, like you said, if you touch public doorknobs, handles, gas pumps, anything like that, make sure you wash your hands or have some stuff to put on your hands to kill germs. And so folks just need to, like you said, wash them hands as frequently, and that'll help tremendously. Representative Werkheiser, we appreciate you calling here on this Wednesday, and we look forward to seeing you at Taste of Wayne tomorrow night.
I'm back a plan. Thank y'all very much.
Okay,
Bye.
Take care. WIFO 105.5 FM in Jessup, Big Dog Country Radio. Well, Bob, good win for the Wayne County varsity baseball team last night at Brantley County.
Before we get to that, I just want to remind people, Buddy Carter's going to call in tomorrow about that virus. Yeah,
good.
He wants to talk about that, so about what they're doing up in Washington and what they do in the state of Georgia. So he'll be calling in talking about that topic tomorrow on the World Famous Butch and Bob Show.
Okay.
Yeah, good win last night for Wayne County baseball. Nice bounce back from the trip to Atlanta. Got a good performance out of young sophomore Asher Cathy. 2 strikes, struck out 6, walked only 2, gave up only 5 hits. So a good performance by him, and we hit the ball pretty well. Played good defense. Had 2 double plays in the infield. So nice win for Wayne County, 6-2 over Brantley County.
Okay, and they're back in action again when?
Tomorrow night, weather may permitting, but doesn't look good.
Yeah. And who are they playing tomorrow? Brunswick. Here or there? Here. Okay. Well, we'll see. We're under flash flood watch today here in Wayne County and the surrounding counties. Somebody showed me a picture yesterday of Old Jessup Road that runs from Everett to Sterling. It kind of parallels Highway 341, but it's just over a few miles to the left there, the Old Jessup Road. And there's portions of it that's totally flooded. You cannot go down portions of Old Jessup Road if you're trying to go from Everett to Sterling or Sterling to Everett. All right, Bob, we're out of time. Okay. Have a good day. All right, the world-famous Butch and Bob Show brought to you by Murphy Builder Supply, located on Northeast Broad Street in downtown Jessup, right down from the big red caboose where the builders buy, Murphy Builder Supply, and also brought to you by Nips Car Wash, located on Highway 301 South, just past McDonald's there on the left-hand side.
Butch and Bob Show.